Hi, everybody. I'm Diane Brady. I'm here with Chris Stoikos, who is a serial entrepreneur. You may remember him as the co-founder of the Dollar Beard Club. Also, Coolbox, which I remember from Shark Tank. Chris, nice to see you. You're back. I know you're now basically doing, I believe you are partner and chief creative officer of Hardworking Gentlemen. Before we get into what you've been doing the last few years, tell me a little more about what your new role is.
Definitely, Diane. I've had the pleasure of being brought on board by Reed Ryan, the CEO of Hardworking Gentlemen. It's a phenomenal brand that sells men's grooming products from hair pomade, hair wax, clay, deodorants, shampoo, conditioner, beautiful bars of soap, all with very clean ingredients, non-toxic stuff that performs well and feels good as you apply it.
So in another era, that would have been competition, at least some of the products, would they not, for Dollar Beard Club, now Beard Club?
Definitely would have been competition. And my favorite thing about joining Hardworking Gentlemen is how inclusive the brand feels. One thing that never sat really well with me was that not every man can grow a beard. Every man has the ability to work hard. So it feels like this brand is a lot more aligned with where I've shifted my values to.
Well, let's talk about that, because I remember Dollar Beard Club very well. The ads you had, which were very fun. You know, they definitely poked fun at Dollar Shave Club. There was a certain kind of bro man cave aura to it. You know, guys with beards came off as very cool. What changed for you? I mean, that's around 2016, 2017. Was there a moment where you thought, okay, I've had enough?
Yeah, I feel like through a lot of the marketing I was doing, it was reflecting suppressed pain of my own from that stems at the playground when you're a child, and it's boys bullying on other boys. And that the new video that we're launching, Rise of the Hardworking Gentleman, one of the lines in the opening scenes is, we need to end the battlefield of bro bravado. So there's a feeling in the air in society today of men beating up on other men, and it can be perceived as cool and, you know, bro and macho. And while there were parts of me that humorously played into that, they were built into my life in ways that I was either avoiding or running from and didn't want to look at. So they came through in the messages that I was putting out there. And since then, I've evolved and shifted.
So I am curious about that, because was there a certain aha moment? Because you were getting, I'm sure you were getting some blowback, but you were also getting millions of dollars of revenue for Dollar Beard Club. And what was it that made you think, I'm going to quit this? Or was it just you took a break? You know, you had the resources. I'm going to go take an extended vacation? Or what was, give me a sense of what your off ramp was from that bro part of your career trajectory.
Sure. A combination of things, which you touched on. The first was I definitely needed a break. There were a lot of years with a lot of long weeks and a lot of long hours put in, and I was glued to the computer or my smartphone and flying to a lot of places, and I felt burnt out, and like I wanted to be able to unwind and relax. Shortly after my first daughter was born, there was a bit of an aha moment that hit me, and I felt, who do I want to show up as I become a dad and I shift as a person? So I started reflecting on different parts of my life, and I remember one day I was at the playground with a little boy. His name was Sajan, and he looked up to me and he said, "Chris, why did you punch that guy in the video? It looks like you hurt him." And it definitely plucked a heartstring of mine of like, wow, you know, I'm not sure how my humor is affecting everybody. It can affect different people in different ways. And I started to want to tap into a way that marketing could be done that's still fun, still has the element that makes people want to share it, and it's more inclusive, that doesn't take someone's feelings and use them against them in a way that can hurt someone or at the expense of somebody else.
Now, I don't want to presume you've been spending the last, 5-6 years just completely off the grid, or if you have, let me know. I mean, what were you doing on the business side, since you are somebody who's been entrepreneurial most of your life?
Yeah. On the business side, I was completely absent. I took a full unplug. I deleted all my social media. Then I got onto a flip phone. Then I got rid of my email addresses. Then I got rid of my computer. And I bought a cabin up in the woods in Quebec. And I was living in a small village there. And it was incredible. I was really able to take time to do things like get a chainsaw and carve out a path in my backyard, and build little projects with my hands and work with wood. And aside from that, I went back to what my childhood dream was, which was pursuing professional hockey. And I had the pleasure and the gift of my past entrepreneurial endeavors aligning me with some really phenomenal trainers in the industry, involved in different leagues on the professional hockey ladder. And I got myself into great shape, and I played in a few different leagues, and that journey continues for me now.
In the NHL, or what do you say, a few different leagues?
No, I played in Australia's professional league called the AIHL. And I played in a few games in a small semi-professional league in Michigan called the MIHL, and one game in a league in Quebec, Quebec's overage league. So I started dipping my toes in the water, and now opportunities have opened up for this year.
What made you decide to drift back or step back into the spotlight now?
I'm not doing it for the spotlight, whereas in the past I was. It was, I want to take every interview I can. Whoa, Shark Tank wants us. Let's start another company and do it for the fame and the fortune and the cars and the parties and the glory. When I deleted my Instagram and the following and got off of all social, I really started feeling into what I was chasing. And the things that I thought were going to make me happy only made me feel more empty. And it took getting it all to actually realize that, and feeling like the image I was chasing is the one that's presented in today's world, that when you have the cars and you have the houses and you can party and you're getting women and you can travel, then you're what society deems like a successful man. And it didn't feel right. So I went back to my own roots, and I asked myself, when I was younger, like, what were the things that I loved doing that brought me fulfillment and joy without money or the need for recognition? And they were knitting, doing puzzles, riding my bike, playing incredible amounts of ice and road hockey, hanging out with my childhood friends. And I realigned with all of those things. I knit lots now. I do puzzles regularly. The amount I've ridden my bike in the past 6 months is off the charts. And when I brought all of those things back in, to tie it back to your question about the spotlight, I wanted to share this message with other men out there that by doing the things you love and putting food on the table for your family and being a good provider and taking care of yourself, you are more than enough. Chasing all that other fluff is not needed, and it won't get a person anywhere except out of alignment.
It's interesting because Hardworking Gentleman evokes a different stereotype in my mind. What does it evoke for you?
Yeah, when I first heard the name, it blew me away. One of the lines in the end of the new video we're launching is, hard work is the backbone of anything truly successful. And it is, because that was one thing that what I did in the past and where things are heading now, it takes hard work no matter what. And when you can have a saying my friend shared with me, dirty hands and clean money that you feel good about, it brings a different energy to how the flow of life is able to move through a person. So the words hardworking gentleman, there's not a man on this earth that doesn't have the ability to work hard in his respective craft.
How do you think the zeitgeist has changed, in the time you've been off grid, as you say? I mean, we've had the pandemic, we've had, certainly more polarization in the US. Here we are, circa 2023. Where do you think we are in terms of the things that really turned you off at the height of Dollar Beard Club?
A unique combination of things where I feel like COVID in certain ways was a blessing in disguise that forced people to go inside and have to be okay with what they're feeling and have to look at themselves and look at their shadows and analyze their relationships for what in their life is supposed to be there and what needs to change. While that pause button was pressed on reality for humanity, people were able to, they had a choice, sink or swim, I feel like. And I feel like COVID brought the best out of certain people and it brought the worst out of others. Some families fell apart, some grew better together. So as we come out of COVID and we rise above that with regards to where technology is at, I feel like certain things have been restored. I can definitely say for myself, with being more involved in the outdoors and on my bike and things with my hands and time with my girls, has brought a whole different level of presence. And I have noticed that in some of the relationships around me as well, that people have realized we can't live our whole lives inside of a computer and only connect through text messaging and iPads and FaceTime. The value of human connection and being able to be in the same physical space as somebody else is one of the most purposeful parts of being human.
So you're no longer in Quebec. Where are you based now? You're in the West Coast?
At this moment, I'm on the West Coast, out in Encinitas with Reed and the team. And I have my residence is in Richmond Hill, 5 minutes from the house I was born into.
Near Toronto.
Yeah, near Toronto.
So I'm curious because, one of the things we've seen this popularity with, north of Richmond or Richmond, north of Richmond and, Donald Trump and the Proud Boys and all that. I mean, there's a certain kind of cocky swagger to a lot of those messages that was vaguely reminiscent of some of the ads I saw. I don't mean to equate the two, but what do you make of that, especially being outside the country? Because you're in a different mental space now, you're with a brand that is basically proselytizing a different approach for men. Curious to get your view of the landscape in terms of what's happening politically.
First and foremost, I've never voted for anything in my life. I've stayed very clear of politics because I feel like it's a very draining topic for a lot of people, and it's a never-ending battle that doesn't allow a person to be able to actually align with what they love and what they do in their daily life. So I let it be noise in the background that I ignore and learn how to navigate those waters when they present themselves in front of me. With regards to the beautiful song you touched on, Rich Man North of Richmond, it's phenomenal. There's a reason that type of music and that man is turning down record labels, that people are appreciating it because he stands for what this new world needs to become, and I believe is going to become. And that's that you having a piece of land with your family and with your loved ones, doing what you love, living from the land. It's the only way that I feel that we're actually going to evolve and grow as a species to live in a place of homeostasis.
So before we get to the role and how you're going to develop it, now I do want to touch on one thing you said, where you said you don't vote. How do we get to the world we want to live in if we're not voting for people who reflect our values?
In my experience, I don't let anyone in a position of power determine how I take action and how I live my life. And I look at life as a traffic system where when certain blockades are put up,
Mm-hmm.
it's a red light. Don't go that way. When the lights are green, you can flow in that direction. Matthew McConaughey's book, Green Lights, I feel shares this same
Mm-hmm.
beautiful philosophy. So when people who consider themselves in positions of power, and they are to whatever extent people are willing to listen and abide by them, put up certain rules for you need to do this to get there, you need to do that to get there. If that aligns with your value system and you feel good taking action towards what's being presented in front of you, then by all means, a light that could be green for somebody else could be red for me and vice versa.
I think that's an answer. So, I mean, do you have a message? You're not, again, I don't want to put you in a political position, but it does sort of speak to some of the lack of trust people have in institutions right now. And you're somebody who had a very big social media presence. You chose to step away from that. And you're coming back with a very different mindset. One thing I'm curious about, I've seen other interviews where you've talked about the influence of plant medicine, I'd call it. I've tried mushroom therapy earlier this year myself. What did it do for you?
My feel is that when you speak about how, like, COVID and politics, that sort of thing, the belief system is very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Dispenza has a book called You Are the Placebo. And it talks about, through studies, how a person's belief system can completely determine how their body reacts to certain substances and different things. After my journeys with plant medicine, I came to a place of finding the carnivore diet, which I've been on for 2 years now.
Mostly meat? Is that the carnivore diet?
Yeah, except it's not mostly. It's only meat.
Oh.
And that's all I've eaten. Meat, water, salt. And it's healed almost everything I've ever wanted to bring attention to, from ringing in the ears to blurry vision. I don't wear contacts or glasses anymore, to other things that were presenting themselves that I was feeding through a lifestyle I was living. And that, come with the being human if you don't take care of yourself. But where I'm going with that in the power of the belief system and how you're saying, like, where do you stand on politics? Because the individual journey is so unique to the person itself, I believe that some people were so terrified of dying from COVID that the vaccine was healing to them because it went through a set of beliefs that the vaccine was going to heal them, and it actually shifted their health, and it did. I believe that certain people were on the fence about it, and they thought, like, I want to take the vaccine, but I think it might hurt me. And then they took it and they experienced certain side effects, and people weren't doing well with it. And then other people stayed completely clear of it because their beliefs were strong that it wasn't good for them. Because the individual has a unique belief system that's all based off of their life experiences and what they've gone through, that too is true for politics and where they look. And because a lot of the political, the different sides are split onto pushing different agendas and different belief systems, it's tough to be able to put yourself in one of those boxes because human beings are like water. We have the ability to flow and to be spontaneous. And if you don't put yourself into a box on a certain belief system, you can adjust how you think and how you feel depending on which way you want to flow and where the traffic is.
I think that's fair.
And
look, I would never ask somebody their political beliefs. I was more asking about the right to vote and exercising it, because democracy versus not. I would pick a democracy, but that's not to lecture. It's more, I think you're touching on something that's very powerful, and we're seeing it in a lot of different ways culturally, men and women. I mean, talk about what you're going to be doing now and what calls to you about this current role.
Of course, this current role is so beautiful because I feel like I've been given a channel to speak through with Hardworking Gentlemen to push the message that politics aside, COVID aside, belief systems aside, to be a good man with good values and to live that day in and day out is such a powerful thing. And in today's world, it can be a challenge to move aside temptation and not give in to desires that aren't productive to who you want to become. And that's the message we want to push as a brand through the products that we sell and the community that we're building.
So you were a Canadian, you went down to live in the US, you've lived all over the past couple of years, you're back in Canada now. Do you see a big difference between the Canadian culture that you're talking, in terms of men and the issues you're talking about, and US culture, or Australian, since you live there too?
Yeah, identical. I feel for the most part, that's where my friends are, Australia, Canada, and US. And because I've lived in all three of them for good amounts of time, they're different in their cultures in certain respects. And at the end of the day, Diane, a man is a man deep down, and I think requires and wants the same things out of life, to be able to, again, be close with his loved ones, put food on the table, feel good about himself, have a profession that feels fulfilling, be involved in sports, activities, hobbies, those kinds of things. And I find that to be the common denominator, regardless of where you're living.
Great. And is there a message you want to leave people with in terms of what you hope this brand will embody? And again, I recognize, of course, that it's been around for several years, and we've got Ryan, the CEO, in the background there. I mean, what do you want in terms of your own message as Chief Creative Officer?
I want all of the scripts that are written that go into the videos that we are creating to contain powerful messages that leave a positive impact on the person. And whether they are inspirational or humorous or a combination, to do that without minimizing anyone else or any culture or any group, so that everyone can feel part of that power and that fun that's involved in why I believe technology was created. Because when something moves you that you've seen on the screen and you get to press the share button to share it with a friend or a loved one, it can be a beautiful thing if we use tech in the right way. And I feel like this brand has that power behind the purity of our products, and being able to make the correlations and the ties between how you start your day with a good grooming routine, using products that are pure and feel good and smell good, will affect how you feel when you leave the house to start the day. So there are some cool ties between our products, our marketing, and the brand all woven together.
Are you proud of what you built at Dollar Beard Club or Cool Box?
I'm definitely proud of what I built. Last I saw, Cool Box was in Home Depot. Beard Club's doing very well, and I wish them both well. And more than being proud or not proud of it, I'm grateful for what it taught me and what I learned about being a person and being an entrepreneur, and the resources it gave me to take time off so that I can come back into the world and share some of those experiences with my fellow men and people who watch the videos in a way that hopefully brings a beautiful impact to their life.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, Chris. One last question. I'm curious, are you back on social media, or are you approaching it differently now?
Good question. Right now, I'm off social media here in this moment with you. There are talks about getting me a channel that I align with. I like YouTube. I like the longer form content and how it presents itself. So it's still a work in progress, and we can keep you posted on that.
To be continued. Well, thank you. Good luck. And of course, the new role is with Hardworking Gentlemen. You're the Chief Creative Officer and a partner, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks for joining us.